Okay, this is Day162. I'm in Hamilton, actually Guelph, Ontario right now. This is kind of a catch-up day and I need to get back to my slides, and I'd like to send this out to Ava Bartlett. I'm hoping to meet her in Toronto today if she's from Toronto. I could get to Ottawa or wherever. So her handle is Ava K. Bartlett right there. I'd like to keep sending this to Russia, RT.com and RTUK.com to Miss Turnbull there, kind of an up-and-coming journalist there at RT. So the Awan Brotherhood I've connected to kind of two different situations. The situation in Detroit with the Javed brothers in Detroit. I believe we're establishing a rat line there. And then also this Javed, this Tahir Javed down in Beaumont, Texas, with a Pakistani to Texas kind of rat line. And these rat lines is really a matter of just connecting the dots and firming up things that don't make sense and connecting where existing rat lines have been before. So that's the pattern we go. For those not familiar with Tahir Javed, he started out with an import-export business in Pakistan called Starco, ImpX for short for import-export. He then took control of these convenience stores, FMCG convenience stores, and it almost looks like he's working with Pakistani intelligence to have these families kind of make this Sophie's choice about their kids' future. They're sacrificing selling his products in his convenience stores, whatever they are, no questions asked, in exchange for the education of their children, which is a tough decision for any family to make, especially the ones that are in tough financial situations. So I wanted to follow up on the Dr. Death story. You know, this is Ataya. I was at his clinic yesterday. I want to focus on that because there's all these, while here in Canada, I've just come up with so many methadone cases, so many methadone addiction cases. There's also fentanyl cases that people have mentioned, and then also the Suboxone addiction problem that we have. I don't really want to, I just don't have the bandwidth to go down this whole story if it's outside of the Hillary rat line. But I do want to say here that I do think the solution here is just medical marijuana, national medical marijuana, initially at first, and if not, a total legalization, because that's what killed prohibition, was legalizing alcohol. And it worked before, so we have a precedent. Another correction I want to make is I said Dr. Farah in my videos, and that should be Dr. Fatah. Dr. Fatah, I think, killed about 100 different people with deliberately giving them carcinogens in the Detroit area. I never found out what nationality he was, but more importantly, what tribe he's associated with, and his thinking and his social media and so forth. I think it's going to be very important. But here's Dr. Ataya. This is the guy who had done all the methadone overdoses. He's also involved. I was yesterday here at this Woodward clinic out in kind of the suburbs of Detroit, and he was also involved with the Javed brothers running the largest Medicaid fraud ever. So that's the connection to there. They were also heavy Democratic donors, as you can see here. So it was strangely reminiscent of this, the Awan brothers working with this Al-Attar doctor. And one of the things in researching I'm in Canada talking with people who have had brushes with running up against this kind of Pakistani intelligence network. People who have lived in Karachi and people who have known people who were recruited in Karachi. It seems to be the heavy ISI recruitment area. And one of the things they keep saying is this doctor title, this moniker, is being used very loosely. Again, I don't want to disparage the 99 doctors who go through medical school and are fantastic doctors, but there does seem to be this loose use of this moniker to give legitimacy to these doctors, and they seem to be foreign degrees for the most part. A lot of times also, if somebody's a doctor of philosophy or gets a degree in marketing, they just title themselves doctor, when in fact that has nothing to do with being a real doctor. What comes out of that are all these suspended licenses, revoked licenses, fake billing, and so forth. A fake doctor is much more likely to do fake billing, in my estimation, than a real doctor that goes through medical school and pays, like I did for my son. So when you go through all that at the prices Columbia charges, you you tend to be a real doctor. And if you pay nothing for it, you tend to be a victim of these fraud schemes. Here's Javed down here. This is Starco. That's his logo. You can see that they started the import-export business basically as a control point of everything coming and going through the convenience stores in Pakistan. But he's all over the world now. And I believe this is a ISI-CIA kind of joint venture. When he got that, then he got control of the convenience stores. When he got control of the convenience stores, he got control of the brands going in and out. And if you look at the site for Starco Impex, it's mostly cigarettes. So a lot of cigarettes, very heavily focused on that sort of thing. And with cigarettes, obviously, you can dope cigarettes. You can have certain brands that are doped. It's an old trick. Again, with the dogs, you know, it's almost like convenience stores specialize in the things that dogs don't smell well, or Javed. You know, the coffee is a well-known cover material, food material to cover drug smuggling, as well as cigarettes. So, again, I'm not the Department of Justice in Alabama. I'm not the one that's saying 17 different convenience stores were involved from his network of stores in turning in these EBT cards, these welfare cards and food cards for drugs. Okay, so, and wiring the money to Yemen. So again, not to belate this, but if you haven't read USA versus Amjad Awan versus BCCI, this is the cookbook. It's laid out step for step exactly how Amjad Awan and his his cohort of people running that rat line did Iran-Contra with the rice, with the guns going south, the drugs coming north, and so forth, and exactly how the money was laundered. This all is in USA versus Amjad Awan, and again, he was guilty. They did a film of it last year. So, and the whole Pakistan to Turkey rat line was elucidated in that as well, that he worked on before. Now, I like it when there's little changes like that where I didn't make the change. But anyway, Muzaffar Awan, obviously I went by his clinic yesterday. It seemed to be very easy to come in, get what you need, self-refer, get the pain meds you need, and then be on your way. You saw the gold, diamonds, and guns trading post right across the street. You saw the kind of the low-end pharmacy right next door, so you could get whatever you needed filled. Again, I'm tying this to the plan Graham Fuller wrote to undermine Russia. The same plan, the same exact plan, use of heroin, use of these opiates and so forth, is being used by Gulen in the United States with all these English teachers. What's happening, I've read so many articles about Gulen schools, and it just seems to be there's this clutch of Turkish guys in the back room that can't hardly speak a word of English. And they have all these English teachers who are passable in English that are working for them, and they meet in clutches in the back, taking students' grades and upmarking students' grades on standardized tests to make sure they get into the best medical schools. Again, here, there's great kids in these schools, and they're learning great things, and they're going to be great doctors. But the trade-off you're making is that they go and visit with the families, and the families do become the convenience store owners. And the family has this Soviet's choice trade. Do I want my child to have a good education? What am I willing to do for it? And they put these folks in a position of desperation that they have to make that choice. Talked a lot about Montreal, Quebec here while I've been in Canada, a lot about Ontario. It looks like, Montreal especially, but also Quebec City. In Quebec, that seems to be where all the medical experiments, the CIA is running with CSIS, a lot of the immigration, a lot of the immigration, all those kind of rat lines. The Ontario side, Toronto side, seems to be more focused on the intelligence gathering, hacking, that sort of thing through the universities, through the outstanding universities in Ontario. So, again, this is more and more connections now that I've made to Karachi with ISI in their recruiting efforts there. Very violent, it's all these martial arts and so forth, recruiting mechanisms to recruit these folks. And the Pakistanis in this world are the enforcers. This is kind of the Hells Angels equivalent in the United States. This is, well, now they're in the United States, but it used to be that Pakistan 111th was the enforcers. And the Turks, going back to the Turks in this thing, they're the soft jihad. They're the slow jihad with the doctors. So it's the combination of the two, but both are very effective in this soft jihad that I was mentioning yesterday. Again, why, if not for the Awan brothers, why the rice mills company, why the Nanoset Technologies, why the 4 rice orders 16 months apart, why the 22 other companies with collapsing companies 16 months apart. Also, Nanoset, I mentioned quite a bit about the global information grid and how the folks that were coming through the safe houses that the Awan brothers ran were getting training on this global information grid. And, Nanoset is obviously very close to the word nanosat, S-A-T. So maybe that's where they got the name. Who knows? Just say, well, let's choose the next vowel, kind of thing. Who knows? But they definitely sold routers and switches, and they definitely were a government contractor. And they definitely spun off bioweapons type information over their lifetime. One of the sales was to Michael Weiner for his law firm at 4 Times Square. So again, I know people tire of me saying this, but this is not an anti-Muslim, not an anti-Pakistani thing. This is 2 Pakistani women saying they threatened them with kidnapping. The woman I interviewed here yesterday, same sort of thing. She was beaten very badly by this kind of martial arts guy, put in the hospital for 2 days, broke 2 eardrums. He was constantly pestering her to marry. That whole thing, and somehow, being on international watch lists, he gets in the United States he has two visas, but somehow gets into the U.S. As a citizen. So I won't go any further into that. Keep anonymity for the folks that are coming forward. But again, you have the stepmother imprisoned in the Virginia home. She also is threatened. She also is hacked. She also says the brothers flee to Pakistan. This seems to be a quite recurring thing as I go through these ISI stories, where there's this kind of sheltering of and help with these folks fleeing to Pakistan. So again, I don't think there's been any movement whatsoever on the Capitol Police and McCabe with the FBI. Now, there is Senator Grassley is saying to McCabe, hey, you still need to answer us on why, if you're involved in the Trump investigation, why you haven't recused yourself. So we're not even to that point yet. But these burglaries haven't gone away. These news articles are just getting more information every day from my source and other sources. And I think it's going to be a very big mistake if Adam Schiff ever brought this up. Again, I think keying in on Nanoset and the government contracts and who they subcontracted for, which I think is going to be Base 1 out of New Rochelle, New York, or potentially Brooklyn. I can't remember which. I think it's New Rochelle. So you've seen this slide before with the auto dealerships. The one I wanted to focus on for today was Base 1. What I believe is happening here with the U.S. Information Agency, most of the passports are issued in another location for the National Passport Center. They're issued in Portsmouth, New Hampshire is the physical address. But the mailing address is Sterling, Virginia. And they have a special separate passport function. I believe that there are passports being mailed to St. Louis for contractors who are interpreters from Afghanistan and Pakistan from that war, and also Iraq, that are being brought in and being issued passports without any vetting whatsoever. And I believe they're at the NGA Center, being employed in supporting industries around the NGA Center, the new NGA headquarters there, and also I believe actually being employed at NGA as interpreters for interpreting geosat imagery. So again, top secret clearance. Here again, I just want to keep repeating the theme here that the Awans are constantly threatening people physically to get what they want. And they're also threatening people with violence, and they're threatening people with kidnapping their relatives. These are tactics that are used by intelligence organizations and the mafia. So I'm going to leave it right here, but here's what I call the Turkish doctor side of things. This is Yusuf Somnez. He was the one who started in the Yellow House here in Kosovo. Obviously, there's been many mass graves where there's Serbian prisoners have been exhumed with no internal organs, heart, liver, also kidney, thousands and thousands of extractions of organs. Now, the important thing here is the CIA chose a sect of Kosovars in Albania and moved them into Kosovo to effect that change. Chris Hill, who's currently at the University of Denver, he was the ambassador, the assistant ambassador, and then poor Holbrook was kind of pushed to the side. I think that caused the early death of Holbrook. But there's Madeleine Albright again, there's Hillary again. And what they've done with these Turkish doctors is just, as the ISI has moved in intelligence operations to different countries like Egypt, like Libya, Syria, and around the Middle East, Afghanistan, so too has DynCorp moved around with the police and the police training, the military police training, and so too have the Turkish doctors moved with this, so as has the child trafficking. So it all is one thing. It's all moving together as one thing. The Turkish doctors, the DynCorp military police, and also the ISI intelligence, kind of the hackers and the support folks, what they used to call intelligence officers. Here again, Grassley is saying, not only why are you in the probe, but did you order, the new news on Grassley is, did you order the Trump dossier, that dossier that came out with almost comical intelligence saying that Trump's lawyer was in Czechoslovakia, and then they pulled his passport and showed that he'd never been in Czechoslovakia. So if they're going to really try to push that agenda, it's going to be a very large mistake. Again, sometimes Adam Schiff's our best friend. Just keeps shining a light on this corruption. Again, final slide. Here's Andrew McCabe. Has not recused himself of the Hillary server, the Huma server, or the Awan server. Don't forget about the external Awan server and all those drives and so forth. But we do have Senator Grassley talking about the $675,000. I think it's only a matter of time before the quid pro quo comes forward, an FBI whistleblower comes forward on who was organizing these quid pro quos. It's becoming more and more obvious to me that the reason why McCabe asked for 200 agents in Iraq was not for policing in Iraq. It was to manage rat lines in Iraq. Now, there's been a crazy article, a crazy commenter on CNN that said somehow he's involved in sex trafficking or pedophilia. I don't think that's true. I think McCabe is just another one of the people caught up in this horrible machine that produces these endless moral misfires and moral compromises that they end up being an evil person that they never thought they would be. I still think that there is a redeemable human inside Andrew McCabe, but he just needs to come clean, and it's really a moment of just resolution and restitution, where you just say, look, I'm giving back the $675,000. Yes, I did try to wall off and thwart the investigation with adding the Miami office into these investigations. Yes, I did try to set up Trump. Yes, I did destroy evidence. As a matter of fact, I've been doing wiretaps for Hillary for 20 years. If he said that, I probably would, not want. I would give him immunity or give him, light duty, light office duty at the FBI. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but I will end it there. A little long today. Trying to get to, if you can want to tweet out to Ava Bartlett, Ava K. Bartlett, that would be great. I'm trying to meet up with her and introduce her to a couple of witnesses. I'm also researching the rat line using the agribusiness distribution network for drug trafficking. So using the ConAgras of the world, their trains, using the Cargills of the world and their trains. Even Warren Buffett's trains are going to come in. The oil trains across Canada are going to come into this. And I believe these silos, the story I'm working on about the Canadian Grain Commission that was had been taken down, had been dismantled 5 years ago. I believe that was taken down to enable a drug rat line in Canada. So those are the things I'm working on today. Sorry I went so long, and look forward to my next missive.